Alright, so in this little breakdown, what we're going to do is build a CG environment for art photography. So if you're an automotive photographer, you shoot a car of, let's say, whatever it is, in a parking deck, and you want to spice up that environment with a new location. This is the process that I would go through to do that. Now, given I am more of a CGI artist now than an automotive photographer, so I pretty much never do this. However, this was requested, and I have no problem going through it. So the first things first is you want to have, your photo of the car. So here's a car I shot. It's a GTR. I strobed it, and then here's the shadow masked out. So first things first is we want to set up the camera and match the car as close as possible. So if you don't have a 3D model of the vehicle that you could obtain through the internet, whatever, whether you buy it or download it, doesn't matter. What you want to do is set up a reference. Anything that could kind of resemble the car. So we could work to scale even though we don't have the actual physical, or not physical, virtual 3D car model. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do Nissan GTR size. So there we go. And here are the specs of the GTR. Now my car is the black edition, it's not the Nismo, but I think they're pretty close in terms of size, spec. The only thing is my car's lowered, so the height might be a little different, but what we can do is still just do the best and match it as close as possible. So the first things first is the length of the car is 185 inches, and because I use standard units, that's going to work just fine for me. So 185 inches, like so. Then the width is 75 inches, so 75 inches. And then the height is 54 inches, so we'll just change it to 54, done. All right, so we're going to change the XY0 to 000, so just right click on these, done. There we go. Now that we have that reference set up, what we'll do is set the photo into the background. So hold Alt, press B. This window comes up, click Use Files. Then we'll do Files, go load your car, press OK. All right, so now what we'll do is go to Top View, create a camera, physical, drag and drop. All right, camera physical, select the target and kind of have it at the tip of the car. All right, so the focal length that I shot this with was a 46, so change that focal length to 46. And now what we'll do is kind of rotate it around to make it match as close as possible. So, and this is, think of this like a gift wrap box. So just kind of match from point to point of the car as close as possible. It's not going to be perfect, but we do what we can. And then before I start really dialing this in any further, I'm just going to create a plane. And what this plane represents is our ground. So we could match our verticals and horizontal lines as reference markers for perspective alignment. So here we go. I'm just going to maximize this viewport. Now this area that I shot in was very grungy and the concrete was not perfectly leveled. So we're just going to do it to the best of our ability. So we'll do it something like that. And then let's say extend the length of the floor. There we go. And I like how that's coming up. So that to me is feeling pretty good. The last thing I'll do is move this kind of outward and see how this line matches up, that little crack. So what we'll do is do something like this. And at the same time, also focusing on our bounding box of the car to make sure the car is still falling into place. There we go. Now, as you can see, our car is sitting a little too high, or the bounding box is a little too low. So we'll just bump that in some more. And again, this doesn't have to be perfect. We're just trying to get as close as possible with the reference we have available. The best way to do this is if you have a CAD model, then it will, it's going to be apples to apples when it overlays and it sits perfectly. But we don't. So what we'll do is just use a bounding box. I'm happy with that. Hide that. And now we start designing the environment. So what I'll do is I'll do full CGI GTR environment, save it just in case. All right, now we just have a little fun with it. So this is a conceptual stage, and this isn't really a tutorial of how to model in 3D Max. If you want to learn how to do that, find other videos. There's so many of them. There's basics, there's advanced, there's a lot of techniques, there's a lot of video tutorials. I'm not doing that. My focus here is to show photographers how it's possible to do what we're doing, and then if you like it, great, and if you don't, you can skip it. So here we go. I'm going to unhide all the bounding box. So this is where we sit. So what I'm going to do is move our ground plane closer to the car, something like that. So there we go. So this is our canvas right near the car. So what I want to do is I like what we have here. So, and this was kind of like a loading ramp. I want to utilize that concept, but play with it a little more. So I'm gonna extrude that out. Now I'm gonna extrude this up. As you can see, these lines are kind of matching, which is nice. So now that we have that, I'm gonna separate that wall from the ground, remove this edge. I don't care for it. We're gonna have a nice open wall. Now I'm gonna select this wall, just drag this edge out like so. Now drag this down. So now we have our little whole area getting filled. Remove that edge, just have a solid plane. All right, now what we'll do is we'll extend this out something like that. Just move it up, move it back. So me personally, when I shoot back plates or I create environments, I love foreground elements. They help add kind of like a 3D sense of depth, and it really makes the photos, it's more interesting to look at, whether it's CGI, photography, doesn't matter. Love depth elements. So what we'll do is kind of create a little barrier back here. Nothing too crazy tall. So if this is the height of the car, we're going to be a little lower than the car. And so we're going to make it go like this. So it's going to sit behind the car, and I'll show you in a second why we did this. All right, so there's that. So this is going to sit behind the car like so. We'll have our strobe head coming up there. So we'll have that same thing. So, and now we just start adding a little more detail. So what I want is kind of like an opening here. So I'll just do something like this, like that. Select these edges and just move them back. I want a lip over here just to add a little more detail to the environment, like so. Now I'm gonna select this, move that back. There we go. All right, so I'll just move this out, take the ground, move that out. Since our camera is right there, and we're gonna put a wall behind it to kind of start adding an enclosed environment for GI to bounce around, like that. There we go, just raise it up some. I'll just go beneath the ground. All right, so we have that. Then we had this shape we created earlier, and then what I'll do is I'll just turn on rendering, make it 1, 445, and now I could quickly add a little lip to it. Don't need that edge. There we go. And then I'll just extend it out some, like that. All right. Now the next thing what I want to do is add some ceiling details. So I'll just create kind of a thin piece of shape like so. Not much height, but just enough to have something there. And then if this is the size of the car, let's see how that looks. I don't want it too big, I don't want it too small, just enough to give us some little interesting effect happening up there. All right, so I'm just gonna drag it back, then I'm gonna offset it like so. As an instance, do 20. That's one too many, but there we go. Automatically made duplicates with the equal offset. Perfect. Now what I'm going to do is make a solid wall, ceiling. There we go. So now we have more things to bounce around in. All right. Now what I would like to do is just add a little bit of a like detail environmental elements. So I'll do something like this, that, just a little something creative. All right. Throw it on the wall back here. And then what I'll do is I'll turn that off and I'll add a sweep modifier to it. So sweep, where is it? There we go. Change this to a bar. And this is just going to allow me to easily add some depth to the shape. Just round it off some, like so. All right. Now I'll just throw this just so it extends out a little bit. Nothing too crazy, like that. And then what I think I might end up doing, let's see what this does, just as a test. I'll make it actually like this. Nope. All right, I'm just gonna leave it as is. There we go, like so. All right, so we'll hide the car. So we have that. Now I do like this little wall that we had here. So same thing, I'll select this edge right here. Click on create from shape, linear. There we go. Now what I'll do is throw this through the wall. Add a sweep modifier to this bar. Now I could add some shape to this. There we go. All right. Add a smooth modifier to fix that rounded edge visual. Then we're going to round off the edges. There we go. Now that we have that done, we're just going to add a little bit of a foreground element. So what I'm going to do is model a quick little wire. So the idea is it's coming from the back side. It's going to hang on top of this, which is why I added that little element. And then it's just going to kind of roll into the foreground. And with some depth of field, it's going to look pretty cool. All right, so what we'll do now is turn on the rendering, make it 24, give it some depth, 30. There we go. I actually want to make it play around in the screen a little more, so that. And the reason why we did this, we're just gonna have it kind of hang on top of this corner. Just kind of give it that human element of something just interacting. We'll probably have to add another vertex. That way we have full control over the the edge roll. So something like this. There we go. And then just kind of let gravity visually come into play. And now we're just kind of just having fun with it. All right. So if that's where our car is, all right, the next thing you want to make sure it's not sitting through the pavement. So what we'll do is just go in. There we go, raise that up. Typically, I would just raise the whole object, but since we already dialed in that area, I don't want to mess that up. Like so. All right. And now we have that. We have a little fun action there. We have some overhead details. We have some backside on the wall. Now what I'll do is I'll add some detail to the actual floor. I'll just extend this out. All right, I'm going to save it in case this freezes. There's a plugin I have. It's called Floor Generator. I use this a lot, and it's an easy way to add details into grounds. So now I'm going to uncheck these. I don't want to offset it any. And then what I want to do is move this up. Then this back. And then I could offset it here. I believe one of these values is going to allow me to do it. There we go. That way we kind of match this crevice that we have here in the photography. All right, now I'm gonna add a little bit more separation in the gap. I'm gonna add a shell modifier. Give this a little bit of depth. Round off our edges. Like so. There we go. Perfect. Okay. And now let's see what else we could add. Just some final touches. All right, so I know the popular style right now. I've seen a lot of shops have this. It's the hexagon lights. I think that would be cool. So what we'll do is we'll add something like this. Center it to the car. Then we'll throw it above right here. And we'll make this kind of like clear plexiglass as the mounting surface. So that way it looks like our hexagon glass is hanging, or the light sources. Then we'll just do like a cylinder. There we go. 0, 6. There we go. Now I'm gonna change that. All right, I'm gonna isolate just these two objects so I can see what I'm working with. I'm gonna copy it just so we have a little bit of detail in these lights. All right. Center the objects. All right, so we're getting really tight, so I'll just scale them down just a little bit because I like the way that size was. All right, perfect. And I actually make it perfectly centered. Why the hell not? All right, select these two. Oh, 3D Max, the new 2020 stuff. All right, now that I have that, what I'll do is just go quickly, copy that, copy that. Whoops, don't worry about that. There we go. We copied that in. We got that. Center this. Center this. It's wow, perfect fit. All right. Now what I'll do is weld all the vertices, and then I will go select all the edges, create from shape, linear, perfect. And then this stuff, I'll just move it underground since I don't want it, but I'll preserve it just in case I want to use it later on. There we go. Where did my thing go? All right, unhide all. There we go. So now I have my little LED lights. I'll just change the diameter of them, something smaller. There we go. Kind of have them hang. And then what I'll do, again, detail. Got to make sure it looks realistic. What we'll do here is some thin line. 0.1, 0.01, 0.015, 0.01. 0.01 is nice. All right. And then what I'll do is I'll throw it on here. Actually 0.1, 0.05, 0.03. All right. And then I will make sure it's an instance. Copy it over here. There we go. And now I'll just copy it a few times like this. And this doesn't have to be perfect. This is just so if someone does look closer at it, they think we tried and we try to add the details. But what this really comes down to is what you want to do. If you want to spend hours upon hours creating the environment, you can. If you just want to have something simple with dramatic lighting, which is what we're going to have, we do that. All right, so now that we have this, we have opened up. We have a little overhead light. That looks cool. We have a car. We have little designer elements. I think what I'll do is I'll throw an LED under there. So to do so, I'm going to copy this shape again. Do something like this. Delete that background poly. Delete the background poly. Select these edges, ring, connect, create shape from blah, blah, blah. Do it like that. All right. Now I have my shape. And now what I can do, I'm going to move this out some more like this. Take this one, move it here. And now I'm going to turn this on. 8.1. This is going to be my LED source. And then what I can do here is, so there's line, there's sweep. So I'm going to turn off this round corner stuff. I'm going to add an edit poly modifier. I'm going to select this face, delete it. This face, delete it. I'm going to go in, do a little swift loop action. Select this, select these polys. Then I'm just going to extrude out to give it kind of like a enclosed wall, like so. So now I'm going to have a little LED thing happening back there. All right. So this, for the sake of it, is good. So what I'll do now is throw a gray material on the whole thing. So change this to a Corona Legacy material. So, oh, I don't have Corona set as my renderer, so we'll switch that over. So switch it from V-Ray to Corona render. Now I'm going to performance. Gonna turn off this thing. All right. I'm gonna save it. Go in here, turn off exposure. And you probably don't have that if you're using Corona, but I do because I have it on V-Ray by default. All right, so materials, Corona, blah, 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 Corona legacy material. Select everything, apply gray because I just want to start off with a blank slate. Now I'm going to do Corona Interactive, done. So the first thing I'm going to do is recreate that strobe light that I had. So we're going to do a Corona disc light. This is going to represent my strobe head. Press F3 in the perspective. All right, so it's set kind of back here. And where in the heck is my light? Oh, it's cylinder, not disc. There we go, disc. Perfect. All right. So I'm gonna move this behind the wall, offset it, because I mean, here's my strobe head in the photo. That was my hero light, for, at least for the shadow of the image. So I'm gonna kind of try to recreate that. I'm gonna unhide my reference marker, and the idea is we're gonna match the shadow to our photo as close as possible. So I'm gonna turn on some directionality on here. 0.55. And then we did see our strobe head, so I'm gonna make sure we could see it in the in that. All right, so our shadow, it does kind of fall a little more forward. For what it is, this is good enough. It doesn't have to be 100% perfect. So um, there's two things we could do. We could either leave this strobe head visible, or we could try to brush in the one from the photo. I don't really care to brush that in, so I'll just utilize what the render engine allows us to do, and that's have a real gloom and glare. And then this should give us a little flare action here in a second. Not really sure why it's not, unless it's due to the directionality. Let's see. All right, so that's what's happening. As you can see, based on directionality, it's saying I cannot see the strobe head. So let's do this. We'll try to fake it. So we have this perfectly good, but what I'll do is I'll check invisible. Now I'll copy this guy, uncheck targeted, change this to local, move it back just behind the head, uncheck all this, check on visible, and turn this off. And now let's do include, and we're not including anything. So this light is abundantly useless. However, it's going to work as our flare source. So now we'll do like 200, and it should be a really crazy flare now. Change this to temperature like 8,000 to kind of match what we have here, where it was the cool light. All right. Streak count to, let's say 7. There we go. I mean, this isn't really as cool as I would like it, so we're just going to really see what this does. Here we go. Now we're getting somewhere. All right. So that's going to work for me. I'll probably scale it down something like that. I mean, this was a 500-watt strobe that I did shoot this with. So we'll just get it like this. And let's see what 9 streaks does. Streak blur, I don't want that. Color shift. There we go. So that's fine. All right, so now that we have that, time to start dialing things in. So, okay, I'm going to hide this box. I don't really care for it right now. So let's add some fun elements to this scene. Overhead light, we're going to make that a Corona light material. So Corona light material, like so. Apply that. And I want these to be kind of like on the cooler side of things. So get a little bit of a cool tone. I'm going to uncheck include other lights. Let's see what 0.5 does. 0.4. All right, so now as you can see, we're getting some interesting looking visual there. Tone that down. All right. Now what we'll do is we'll select this. And I really enjoy warms and cools in my environments, so I'm going to throw this LED on there and make it warm. So something like this. Don't really care for directionality on that. So there we go. That's fun. That's a cool looking LED. All right, now we have to just make sure we let's see, cap that. All right, and that's just the light kind of bouncing off and shimmering into the top. All right, perfect. So we have our strobe light, we have that light, and now it's really up to you whether you want to add more light sources or not. I kind of like the dramatic visual of what we have going on right now, but you really could do anything. This is the fun thing about the full CGI world is you're not limited to what you could do. You could throw a little cool light down in the hallway, a little something overhead. So what we might end up doing, just for the sake of it, is go up here, create a little disc light, and just shine it up kind of in the, oh, so we'll throw it back here, see where we placed it. So I want it to be not too crazy. Sit above there like that. Sit back here. Don't look here for local. And I think I'll just make it kind of like a pinkish hue. And then make sure directionality is off. There we go. Something like that. And just to, make sure everything's realistic, we're going to throw a wall back here. So again, just make sure everything's enclosed and we are inside of a 3D environment. And just to make sure there's no weird things happening, I'm going to add a shell to that, give that sense of depth. Going to add a smooth modifier on this. Then I'm going to actually go in and round these edges off. All right, so there we go. So there's that. Now, the last but not least thing to do is just start doing the materials. And this is really, again, it's up to you how you want to go about creating these materials. So what I'll do is I'll make this kind of like a rubber hose. See, now we're getting some really, really cool looking light play happening. And then what I'll actually do is just to kind of add a little bit more mood, rectangle. So I'll throw in just a tiny rectangle over here in the corner. Just let's see what happens when we make like a red. Make it something like 0.8, 0.7. So what I do, the reason why I'm adding this is I just want a little some kind of rim right in here on the hose, just to give it a little something extra. And I'm not really trying to take away from the drama we have happening from the strobe. This is just kind of like a little ambient light, and I'll probably aim it at the wall. $50, $30. As you can see, it's kind of happening. We're still keeping this area lit the way we have it from the strobe, and this just adds a little something extra to this. We're seeing a little shimmer, a little detail. That's all I want. It's just a little bit. Nothing too crazy. And now this wall is feeling a little basic, so um, we'll try to accomplish that with the texture map actually. So all right, next thing we'll do is we'll go to cgtextures.com And then there's different sources. You can use CG textures. There's a Quixel Megascan. That's another fantastic one. Only reason why I'm using these for these tutorials, they're free, and you don't need high res spec stuff for right now. So this is fantastic for what I want to use in these videos. All right, so I'm going to download this one. This is going to give us like a little concrete action happening. Then I'm going to close that out. Then we're going to close this out. Then we're going to just get a generic asphalt one like so. So all right, that's free. We'll download that as well. And then we'll also grab the texture for it. All right, so now I'm just going to organize it real quick. All right, now that I have it organized, I'm just going to create a new material. I'm going to name it Floor Hero. All right, I'm going to Corona Legacy material. All right, so for the diffuse, I'm just going to do Corona. All right, Corona Triplanar, that's what I want because I don't want to UV map anything. I'm being lazy. I just want to get this out the door and done. All right, so textures, where the heck did they go? Oh, I never copied them. That would explain it. There they are. All right, so now that we have that, here's our diffuse map. And what we'll do, if you do 2D zoom, it respects us, so we'll zoom in and see what the scale's looking like. All right, there we go. So that's fine. It's a little dark, so I'm just gonna bump it up because in the photo that I shot, it is a bright gray floor like this, so we kind of want to match that. So what we'll do is go to RGB level, bump it up, and then I don't want the brown, so I'll do color correction, keep the map, and I'll tone down desaturation. There we go. All right, so that's done. Now what we'll do is do the same thing, but in the bump map area. So here we're gonna do a Corona normal. So do Corona normal map. And what we may end up having to do is a actual composite map, but we'll take a look at this. General bitmap. All right, so first things first is we have this generic ground. All right, so that right now, again, is getting, oops, that's not what I want. I want the 2D zoom. And we'll see what that does. Oh, that's why I didn't do Corona triplanar. Whoops. All right, so Corona triplanar. Sorry for this stuff. All right, we're keeping that local. I don't want local. I want world space. 2, 1, 15. I'm gonna crank it just so I can see where my bumps are. For the sake of this, so this light on the gray was working. Here it's not as much, so 200. All right. Tone, take that blur off completely. There we go. And then what I'll do is I'll add a little bit of a highlight to the ground. This is gonna help show me what my bump's looking like actually. There we go. That's more like it. All right. So now that I have that, what we want to do is add a little bit of that wear and tear stuff. So let's go to our maps folder. And this is in the previous tutorials when I was doing the automotive photographer's guide thing. There were textures that I've created and I've shared links to. So those are the textures we want to use for the ground here. And what I have to do is figure out where the heck I saved those textures. Because they're somewhere, I just have no idea where at this point. So give me 1 second. All right, I did find them. We're back. So what we'll do is for glossiness, Corona triplanar. We're gonna load a bitmap, and here they are. So what I want is my dirty map. Sharpen that up. World space. I just kind of want to see what's happening, and we might have to use the one with the contrast added. So we'll just load that one in. There we go. So 15 might be too much. And I'll take the bump off for now. I just want to see where my 1.52, where these highlights are playing up. So we're going to do 7, 50, 1.52. 0.8. Turn that bump back on. All right, so there we go. So now that we have that ground established, what we'll do is throw some other concrete maps on this environment, but we'll just use the Corona pre-made ones, so that way you don't have to make everything from scratch. So we'll just open up the Corona material library, and these are just going to be drag and drop maps. So that's what makes it super easy. So concrete. So let's see here, concrete rough plates. This is going to look good on the back wall. All right. So we'll throw this one back here. See what that's doing. And I don't know if it requires a UV map or not. But for whatever reason, it's not really looking like it's working properly. So I'll change this to 1 by 1. Yeah, I don't really like what they do. So we'll do 1 by 1. And then we'll just go here. Make sure real world scales off. Here, change this to 1 by 1. Make sure that's 1 by 1. All right, now that we have all of the maps done to 1 by 1, we can actually use our UV coordinates. So that's the one thing when I was testing this last night, I didn't really like. Whatever they do for their tiling, it doesn't seem to be user friendly. Where V-Ray makes it triplanar to scale and it's perfect. Corona has an issue where it doesn't make it very user friendly. Just throw things on and be able to see the results. Maybe I'm doing it wrong, which I'm sure I am, but all I know is with V-Ray worked easy. This is not, but either way, quick fix and it's working now. All right, so concrete rough, we'll throw this one on here too. Throw that on these two walls. Same thing, unfortunately, 1 by 1. Make sure that's set to 1 by 1. Really wish I knew what I had to do to make this function properly because this is very annoying. All right, now that we have that, again, same thing, add some UV coordinates to this. So just the UVW map, 555. That seems good. All right, that seems good. We'll throw a different type of concrete on that back wall. And actually, I'm gonna use this one for consistency. So we'll throw this one on that wall as well. We'll throw the same UV map on there, so that way our walls match. There we go. Now this one, let's throw a little something different on here. So this little concrete polished, I think this is kind of cool looking. Let's see what this does back here. Again, just like the other ones, I'm sure we got to do the 1 by 1. Oh boy, this one has a lot more to screw up. All right, okay, and more exciting things to tweak. Quick quickly do that. That. There we go. All right, so we have our floor, we have that. The next thing is this. Luckily, I get to do this on my own. So the only thing I'll do is I'll round the edges on the geo. One zero five. All right, and then we'll just add a new corona material. Make this, I guess, gray. You could leave it. Put a 1 on it. Put a 1 in refraction. Give it a little bit of a glossy effect. And then actually tone it down so it's not pure transparent. That way we could get some of this like plexiglass, clear, foggy visual thing happening. And we'll tone down the reflection amount so it's not as a reflective surface, so we don't get a crazy like double vision thing happening. All right, so there's that. This is looking good. I wanted a little more juice out of that backlight, so let's do to 500, see what this does. 300. So see, I kind of like what's happening there. Um, so we have that. What we might want to do is throw another light source back there as well. So we'll just do kind of like a little rectangle. Go over here and just like a little thin LED light type of deal. Go up high and we'll turn on some directionality. Let's do 800 and give it like a cool tone. And not really sure why we're not seeing it. Where is it? Oh, I'm probably on the wrong side of things. All right, so throw it there. Throw it up there. 0.4. Like that. Just so we get a little life in the background. Then we'll do as an instance. Just throw it back there. Back there. There we go. Now what I'll do here on this one, I'll throw that little rubber material on there just so we have a little contrast happening. And I do want to round off these edges, so 0.05, 5, just so they're able to capture a little bit of a highlight like that. And now what do we have left? I think there was something else I did not like. So the car is going to be in the way right here, so we're not going to see this little pocket. So that's looking and feeling good. Next thing is depth of field. So if I remember correctly, I shot this with a 5.6. So we're going to do a 5.6 f-stop, enable depth of field. There we go. So now we're going to naturally get our depth of field element occurring. So we have that. Everything's looking good. I'm going to unhide all. Object properties. I'm going to uncheck visible to reflections and shadows. There we go. What else is here? There we go. Blah, blah, blah. And we'll throw kind of like a gray sphere on there. I'll copy this one actually. Just name it whatever so it's not a duplicate name. And my car's wrapped in satin gray, so we'll just leave it at gray. And let's see. All right, so what I do want to do is kind of help match this just a little if I could. So I'm just going to go like this. This doesn't really matter right here, but like that. Just move these elements. Let's see here. All right, move the wheels like so. Then the front windshield area is right there. Then the hood goes down right here. And then this whole front end is kind of low like that. And then the front comes off the ground. So I'm not getting too crazy with it, but this way we could kind of make the shadow a little more realistic. And probably I'll end up brushing in a lot of that shadow from the photo, but this way just in case. And I'll actually add a little edge there, and then just lift the side skirt off the ground a little bit. Just like this. This point back, kind of helps sell that idea of the wheel. There we go. Again, not really crazy about it. We'll see if we use it or not, but this way it's just there. So in a nutshell, this is creating and lighting the environment. I'll start the rendering here in a second. I'll pause it, and then we'll just wrap it up with a quick little composite. So here we go. The last thing we'll do, a couple render elements before we render it. We'll add a beauty, a bloom and glare. So for the beauty, I do not want bloom and glare. I do want a denoise. For noise, we're going to do Corona high. There we go. We're going to stop this. We're going to save it. So for the rendering size, so my actual photo of the car was 8256 by 5504. 8256, 5504. Now, I'll just, because I don't really want to render a full res, I'm just going to do a 4500. All right, so I think that takes care of everything. And then, oh yeah, the only other thing, if you want, you can do is a normals shading pass. So we could add a little bit of a fake light stuff in post later on if we want to. All right, so save it and hit F9. Let it render away, slowly bake, and then we'll just denoise it. And then the part 2 of this tutorial, I'll have to put it into After Effects, is just going to be retouching all this. So for now, I'm just going to stop the recording and let it bake away.